Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons, Feast of Legends, Wendy's, Matthew Mercer, and the three types of critters that now exist. Critters are fans of Critical Role. All right, let's talk about this. All right, so let me give a little bit of context real quick. Feast of Legends is a tabletop role-playing game made by Wendy's, the fast food restaurant. It released a week ago. Matthew Mercer took Critical Role, and they created the Matthew Mercer Critical Role Feast of Legends Secret One-Shot. Okay, it is the one-shot that aired live on Twitch, and then some members of the critter community became very upset with Critical Role and with Matthew Mercer. They insisted that this was a wrong move on the part of Matthew Mercer, and that the one shot should never be created. Matthew Mercer then immediately removed the Matthew Mercer Critical Role Feast of Legends Secret One Shot. He took it. It was just the one shot before that, but he took it off the internet, right? And now you can no longer access the Matthew Mercer Critical Role Feast of Legends Secret One Shot. It is now the Secret One Shot. Before it was, for like a single moment, it was just the Matthew Mercer Critical Role Feast of Legends One Shot. Now it's the Secret One Shot. It's incredibly rare. It had all tabletop role playing game streamed games are now trash compared to it. Right? It is the rarest, the most valuable streamed tabletop role playing game in history. Right? This is critical. This is a very important moment in the history of Dungeons & Dragons, in the history of tabletop role-playing games, in the history of tabletop role-playing game communities, right? And what we've seen is this one event instantly schismed the critter community. It turned the critters into three groups: the legendary critters, okay, the chain critters, and the Solace critters. All right, so let's talk about them. What are they, right? So let's talk about the legendary critters. All right, so to explain the legendary critters, I need to explain fine wines, rare wines to you, okay? All right, one of the most rare wines in the world is Chateau Lafite 1787. It's a bold French wine, right? And frankly, you can buy it if you have $150,000 to buy a bottle of Chateau Lafite 1787, right? The Matthew Mercer Critical Role Feast of Legends Secret One Shot is more rare than that, right? Like, you can only a legendary critter is a critter who was there right at the time when this was aired live on Twitch. And those people who saw the Matthew Mercer Critical Role Feast of Legends One Shot, right? They are now the uber critters. They are the most special critters that exist, right? Because they have seen the full scope of Matthew Mercer's work, right? They have seen his brand tabletop role-playing game Secret One Shot. They've tasted the Chateau Lafite 1787 of Matthew Mercer's work, right? All other work of his is either behind a paywall and you can just pay some fee and go see it. All the rest of his work, all his Vox Machina, all of his Mighty Nine, you could see that, right? If any critter can go see those now, or they can pay the fee to see something that might be behind a paywall. But no one can see the Matthew Mercer Critical Role Feast of Legends Secret One Shot. No one, right? It is more rare than the Chateau Lafite 1787, right? Imagine if the Chateau Lafite 1787 were unavailable and you could only talk to people who had experienced it. That's what we are. You know, I'm not actually a critter, but regular critters and actually regular people, we can't experience the Matthew Mercer Critical Role Feast of Legends Secret One Shot. We can only talk to those uber class, super special, legendary critters who saw it live. They have a special relationship with Matthew Mercer that no other critter will ever have. They've seen the full scope of his work, right? They saw that pivotal moment in history when Matthew Mercer brought the Critical Role team in and did the Feast of Legends Secret One Shot. it has created a new class of critter, an uber fan, right? An uber critter, right? The legendary critter. That's the legendary critter. All right, let's talk about the chain critters, right? The chain critters are the reason that you cannot watch the Matthew Mercer Critical Role, Feast of Legends, Secret One Shot. They're the reason. Now, long time ago, this is a sad story. I'm sorry to tell it to you, but I think it explains what's happening here. So, a long time ago, I was in a park, and it was actually at night, and there was a gentleman walking a dog. I think it was about 30, maybe 40 pounds, and it's kind of a medium-sized dog. It looked like it had really powerful jaws. It was completely muscular, right? It had some scars on it, right? I remember this to this day. And the gentleman who was walking this dog, he was looked like a very formidable person, and the dog looked like a very formidable dog, right? It looked like it had done some things that other dogs had not done, right? And I remember, he was just walking, and I saw this man, I saw the dog, right? And, the reality is, I was playing Pokemon Go in a park at night. This is the early days when you were still trying to get, and I saw this guy, and he was walking the dog along, and I remember the dog, it saw something, and it started to sniff, and it pulled the chain that it was on. It had a thick leather collar, and it wasn't a leash, it was a chain. I remember it, because you could hear it clinking, right? And I remember when that dog went over, right, it went over just, I'd say 6 or 8 inches beyond where it was being walked. And now I'm not sure if the term gentleman is correct, right? He yanked that dog with the chain. He yanked it, right? And I remember it, and I'm kind of ashamed. I didn't say anything. I probably should have, and I feel bad about that. But that's what a chain critter is. The chain critter are the critters who yanked Matthew Mercer back when he had the audacity to do something new and experimental, something that would put money in the coffers of his small business, which is Critical Role. And because Matthew Mercer was dealing with a corporation that those critters disagreed with on maybe 1 or 2 checklist items on their checklist, they yanked him back and said, "We don't trust you. We revoke our trust for you. We revoke our goodwill for you, and you must do what we wish, which is we want this to go away. We don't think this one shot should have ever existed, and you need to get rid of it, right? We question your good. We revoke your goodwill. We revoke your trust, right? We don't think that you had any. We don't feel that you, Matthew Mercer, who have supplied thousands of hours of entertainment for us, right? We don't think that you would have had any ability to talk to the executives at Wendy's and change some of the things that we wanted changed, because you're limited and you're small, Matthew Mercer, and we don't trust you. We don't give you any more goodwill because you defied something that we cared about, and now you have to do what we say, and we're yanking your chain. We're pulling you back like you're a dog, right? Those are the chain critters, right? Now, the reality is we don't know how many chain critters. We don't know what percentage of the critter community are chain critters. I am suspecting that it is very small. I doubt it's even 10%, right? I would probably guess it's probably 7 or 8%, right? And the reality is we live in a world where you can go on a social media platform like Twitter, and you can magnify your voice, and you can yank the people who have given you thousands of hours of joy. You can yank them back like a dog on a chain, right? Now, frankly, I don't think we should do this to dogs. I think it was horrible what that man did, right? I'm ashamed that I didn't do anything at the time. I should have, right? But the reality is, and sometimes we give into our fears. I probably shouldn't, and I am ashamed of that, right? But the reality is, no animal should be treated this way, and Matthew Mercer absolutely should not have been treated this way. When he did that Matthew Mercer Critical Role, Feast of Legends, Secret One Shot, right? He should have been given the room he needed to follow through on this experiment, to see if the money that was coming in from Wendy's could be used to do really special things in the tabletop role-playing game community. He should have been given time to build a relationship with the CEO or with the executives of Wendy's. And I'll tell you right now, I think Matthew Mercer is a really powerful person. I think he's an incredibly charismatic person. And I think some of the things that those chain critters wanted could have literally been accomplished with a few paragraphs of speech from Matthew Mercer, right? Human beings respond to human beings. And there are a few human beings on the planet who have as much charisma and intelligence and, frankly, kindness. I know a few people who have met him in person, spent time with him, and they said he's very real and very genuine. And I honestly believe I don't believe for a second that the executives at Wendy's would not have had some percentage chance of being swayed by Matthew Mercer and maybe even changing the way they did business, right? And changing the few things on the list that the chain critters didn't like, right? So now we have two I've described two kinds, right? So we have the legendary critters. Boy, they are truly special breed now. Not breed. There's truly special segment of the critter community, right? Sorry, I was thinking about dogs in my head. All right. Then we have the chain critters, right? They are a problem, in my opinion. That is a serious problem. If you have, people in your community who will not even extend a millimeter of trust and goodwill to you, who try to keep you small, try to put you in a box and say all you are is a voice actor, all you are is the best dungeon master in the world. You don't have any business talking business with CEOs or executives of multi-billion-dollar international companies. You're small, Matthew. You don't have any ability to deliver what we want, right? And we will not extend goodwill or trust for you. It's truly sad what the chain critters accomplished and what they did, right? And what they've denied the world now, right? It's really pretty amazing. The last group are the Solace critters. Now, the Solace critters are really, really interesting. Who are the Solace critters? The Solace critters are critters who were not fortunate enough to be there to see the Matthew Mercer Critical Role, the Matthew Mercer Critical Role Feast of Legends Secret One Shot. Now, they will always have a stunted relationship with Matthew Mercer going forward. They will not have seen the full scope of his work. They will not have seen that pivotal hinge in the history of tabletop role-playing games that he formed, right? That hinge where it was being decided, where there was really epic occurrences and epic events that were happening around brand tabletop role-playing games. A form of tabletop role-playing games that are being birthed right now. And we're going to see if, what happens with them, right? But Matthew Mercer was right there at the inception of the brand tabletop role-playing game. And the Solace critters, I feel bad for them. They are fans of Critical Role, fans of Matthew Mercer, right? But they'll always have a stunted, limited relationship with him now because they will not seen the full extent of his work. And they will not have seen the most pivotal moment in the work of Matthew Mercer and Critical Role, right? Like this really pivotal, critical moment in the history of the entire tabletop role-playing game industry, right? So they have this stunted relationship. They have a lesser relationship than the legendary critters, right? But we call them the Solace critters. I call them the Solace critters. These are all my terms. Solace critter, chain critter, legendary critter, right? And this is to acknowledge the schism that now exists within that community, right? So you have the Solace critters, right? And the Solace critters they have this relationship with Matthew Mercer. Some of them won't even realize that their relationship is limited with Matthew Mercer now, right? That they're forbidden from seeing the entirety of his work. No matter how much money they ever earn, they'll always have a limited view of his work, right? And that's okay. Well, I don't know. That's a problem, but many of them won't even be aware of the problem, right? But the Solace critters are just critters who have really enjoyed Vox Machina and are now enjoying Mighty Nine, right? And they're just concerned with that small little corner of tabletop role-playing game history, that small little corner of tabletop role-playing game present, right? Like the Mighty Nine is being told right now, right? The story of the Mighty Nine. And so the Solace critters are just critters who they just like the Mighty Nine stories. They like the Vox Machina stories. The Vox Machina story is complete. the Mighty Nine stories, right? They're being told now, and they just tune in each week and they watch the streamed games. They watch the, the mundane material of Matthew Mercer and Critical Role, not the Chateau Lafite 1787, right? But it's okay. Like, most of them don't even know that wine exists. Many of them don't even know that wine exists, right? And some of them, they're okay drinking, drinking box wine, right? Like, that's okay, right? Now, I'm not saying that Matthew Mercer's work is box wine. They're okay with a wine you could buy at Whole Foods. They don't need the wine that you would buy from Sotheby's, from Sotheby or whoever that really high-end auctioneer is. So those are the Solace critters. And that's it. That's the full extent. Before Feast of Legends, Wendy's tabletop role-playing game, there was only one kind of critter. There was just critters. Now, after the Matthew Mercer Critical Role, Feast of Legends, Secret One-Shot, there are 3 types of critters, right? There are Solace critters, there are chain critters, and there are legendary critters, right? Now, the reality is, I am hoping, and one of the reasons why I'm putting this here to capture this moment in tabletop role-playing game history. I really feel like this is pivotal. Like, we don't want to forget even a moment of what's happening right now, right? Because brand tabletop role-playing games, I really feel like 2020, 2021, you could see a huge explosion of these, right? And it's really important, because one of the things is tabletop role-playing games are such a small community and it's such a small industry that you don't have single-digit $1 million, $10 million. Like, what if you have, 7-figure? Right now, I think there might be a few 7-figure tabletop role-playing game design projects in the world. Could you imagine an 8-figure? An eight-figure tabletop role-playing game design? Well, when you have a Fortune 500 company that says, I want a branded tabletop role-playing game, you could see $10, $20, $30 million spent to build a traditional tabletop role-playing game. That has never happened, right? So this is truly, really, really critical, right? And so I am really hoping that many of the chain critters will hear this, right? Understand that what they did was really cruel. I really think what was done with Matthew Mercer was cruel. It really was. It was a forgetting of everything that he has supplied for his community. It was an attempt to keep him small. It was cruel. It was just like what happened to that dog that night in that park. This is incredibly cruel, and yeah, it was incredibly cruel. And I'm hoping that some of the chain critters will stop being chain critters and move over to Solace critters. And actually, I think the best outcome of all of this would be if there were no more chain critters, and then at that point, at least one of the schisms could disappear, and we would just have Solace critters and legendary critters. This is truly an incredible moment in tabletop role-playing game history. All that's my opinion. I'd love to hear your opinion. Let me know in the comments below. If you are a legendary critter, please, please, please send me a note on YouTube. I would really love to just give you a call on the phone and hear firsthand what happened in this game. And I also want to just say, if you're a legendary critter, just be aware you own a golden talisman. Your unique narrative, your experience of that game is now incredibly valuable content, right? Because the rest of us, right, the Solace critters, and just regular people, I'm just a regular, person, we can't experience what you experienced. You have tasted the Chateau Lafite 1787. And the rest of us are just mortals, right? So I really would love to hear your experience. Please reach out to me through the comments, and we'll link it up, because I desperately want to know what happened in that game. Again, all that's my opinion. Please fill in the comments below with whatever you think on the situation. And please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.